The avoidant encounters many people over the course of their life. They date, form connections, experience relationships that range from brief to long-term. But there are specific qualities, rare qualities, that make the avoidant not just attracted, but genuinely invested in keeping someone. These are not the qualities most people think matter to avoidants. They are not about giving space, or being independent, or playing it cool. They are far more nuanced, far more difficult to embody, and far more powerful in their impact on someone with avoidant attachment. Understanding these three rare qualities reveals why some people become unforgettable to the avoidant, while others are easily released. Why certain relationships haunt the avoidant for years, while others fade without much impact. These qualities are so rare that the avoidant who encounters all three in one person has found something they will likely never find again, something valuable enough to potentially motivate them toward the growth and vulnerability that sustainable relationship requires. Quality 1, the ability to be genuinely secure in the face of their insecurity. The first rare quality the avoidant values most is genuine security in the face of their insecurity. This is not performed confidence or strategic unavailability designed to make them chase. This is authentic security, the kind that comes from someone who has done their own attachment work, who knows their worth independent of the avoidance behavior, who can remain steady in themselves when the avoidance patterns would destabilize most people. This quality is extraordinarily rare because it requires the person to have healed their own wounds enough that the avoidance distance does not trigger their abandonment fears, that the avoidance coldness does not make them question their worth, that the avoidance inconsistency does not create anxiety that demands reassurance. The genuinely secure person can witness the avoidant pull away and not take it personally. They understand the withdrawal is about the avoidance fear, not about their inadequacy. They can give the avoidant space without spiraling into worry about whether the avoidant will come back. They can maintain their own emotional stability while the avoidant is being emotionally unstable. This security creates safety for the avoidant that they have rarely experienced. Most people the avoidant encounters either become anxious in response to their distance, which triggers the avoidant's need to create more distance, or are other avoidants who cannot provide the connection the avoidant actually needs. But the genuinely secure person provides paradoxical gift. They are close enough to offer real connection, but secure enough that their closeness does not feel suffocating. They want the avoidant, but do not need them in ways that create pressure or obligation. They care deeply, but maintain their own center, regardless of what the avoidant does. This combination is what the avoidant has been looking for their entire life, even though they could not articulate it. It is the environment in which the avoidant feels safe enough to potentially risk vulnerability, secure enough to possibly let their walls down, seen enough to be known without being overwhelmed by the knowing. The genuinely secure person also does not enable the avoidance dysfunction while providing the safety. They maintain boundaries. They communicate their needs clearly. They do not accept mistreatment in the name of understanding. Their security includes self-respect that will not tolerate being diminished. This combination of understanding the avoidance patterns while refusing to be destroyed by them is the exact balance the avoidant needs. They value this quality intensely because it represents their best chance at sustainable relationship. Someone who can be with them in their defended state while also calling them toward their potential. without shaming them for not being there yet. The rarity of this quality cannot be overstated. Most people fall into one of two categories: anxiously attached people who become destabilized by the avoidance patterns and, inadvertently, push the avoidant further away through their reactivity, or other avoidants who provide safety through mutual distance, but cannot provide the actual intimacy the avoidant needs underneath their defenses. The genuinely secure person who can hold space for the avoidant sphere while maintaining their own groundedness is unicorn. When the avoidant finds this person, they recognize on some level that they have encountered something irreplaceable, even if their patterns prevent them from keeping it. Quality 2, the capacity to see them clearly without trying to fix them. The second rare quality the avoidant values most is the capacity to see them clearly, to recognize their patterns, understand their wounds, perceive the fear beneath their distance, without making them a project to fix. This is extraordinarily rare because most people who develop understanding of avoidant patterns fall into one of two traps. They either use that understanding to enable the avoidant accepting unacceptable behavior in the name of compassion for their wounding, or they use the understanding as diagnostic tool to fix, constantly pointing out the avoidance patterns, suggesting therapy, pushing for growth. The avoidant has not chosen for themselves. The person with this rare quality sees the avoidant completely. They recognize when the avoidant is pulling away out of fear rather than genuine disinterest. They understand that the avoidant's coldness is protective mechanism rather than evidence of not caring. They can identify the specific attachment wounds driving the behavior, but crucially, they do not use this knowledge to try to change the avoidant. They do not make the avoidant their rehabilitation project. They do not constantly analyze the avoidant's behavior or point out when patterns are emerging. They simply see, understand, and hold that understanding quietly, unless the avoidant explicitly asks for their perspective. This quality is valuable to the avoidant because it creates experience of being known without being judged, being seen without being made to feel broken, being understood without being pressured to change before they are ready. The avoidant has spent their life hiding their vulnerability, performing independence, maintaining walls to prevent anyone from seeing how afraid they actually are. But this person sees through all of it, not because they are trying to, but because they are perceptive and emotionally intelligent enough that the avoidance defenses are transparent to them. And despite seeing everything, they do not weaponize this knowledge. They do not use their understanding to manipulate, to pressure, to shame. Instead, they relate to the avoidant with radical acceptance. I see who you are. I understand why you are this way. I recognize your struggles and your patterns, and I accept you exactly as you are in this moment, while also believing you are capable of more when and if you choose that for yourself. This acceptance without agenda is what allows the avoidant to feel safe enough to potentially begin lowering their defenses. They are not being pushed to change, so the reactive resistance to being pushed does not activate. They are simply being seen and accepted, which creates conditions where change becomes possible if they choose it. The person with this quality also maintains clear boundaries around what they will accept behaviorally, even while accepting who the avoidant is psychologically. They can hold both truths simultaneously. I understand your patterns and why you have them, and I will not remain in relationship with you if these patterns continue to harm me. This is the crucial distinction between enabling and compassionate understanding. They see the avoidant clearly, accept the avoidant's wounding, and refuse to sacrifice themselves to the avoidant's resistance to healing. This balance is what makes the quality genuinely valuable, rather than codependent. The avoidant values this quality so intensely because it represents the only environment in which genuine transformation is possible for them. They cannot change when being pushed, because pushing activates all their defenses. They cannot change when being enabled, because enabling removes the natural consequences that might motivate growth. But they can potentially change when being seen, accepted, and simultaneously held to standards by someone who understands them completely, but refuses to be diminished by that understanding. The person who possesses this quality becomes irreplaceable to the avoidant because they represent the path to healing the avoidant could take if they ever become ready. And losing this person often means losing that possibility entirely. Quality 3. The willingness to walk away while still caring. The third rare quality the avoidant values most is perhaps the most paradoxical: the willingness to walk away while still caring. This is not leaving out of anger, not leaving to punish, not leaving because care has died. This is the capacity to love someone, to genuinely care about their well-being, to want good things for them, while simultaneously choosing to leave because staying is not serving your own growth, or because the other person is not capable of meeting you where you need to be met. This quality is extraordinarily rare, because most people can only leave when they stop caring, or leave in ways that communicate resentment, or when they have exhausted all their compassion. The person who possesses this quality can hold two truths that seem contradictory to most people: I care about you deeply, and I am choosing to leave. They can wish the avoidant well, while refusing to stay and be destroyed by the avoidance patterns. They can see the avoidance potential, while accepting that potential is not current reality and may never be realized. They can love the avoidant as a person, while recognizing that being in relationship with them is not sustainable or healthy. This requires exceptional emotional maturity, clear boundaries, and willingness to tolerate the discomfort of caring about someone you are not with. This quality is what the avoidant values most deeply, though they often only recognize this value after the person is gone. While the person is present, the avoidant may take their caring for granted, may assume it means the person will never leave, may test the boundaries of that care to confirm it is unconditional. But when this person leaves, not in fury or destruction, but in calm clarity that they deserve better than what the avoidant is offering, the avoidant encounters something that shakes their entire worldview. Someone loved them and left them. Someone cared enough to see their worth and also cared enough about themselves to refuse to accept less than they deserved. This departure teaches the avoidant that love is not the same as unconditional tolerance, that caring about someone does not mean accepting their dysfunction indefinitely, that there are people who can hold compassion for your struggles while also refusing to be destroyed by them. The person who leaves while still caring is making powerful statement about self-respect and boundaries that forces the avoidant to confront their own patterns in ways that staying never could. Staying communicates that the avoidance behavior is acceptable. Leaving while caring communicates that the behavior is not acceptable, but the person is still valued, just not at the cost of the one leaving. The avoidant values this quality because it is evidence of genuine strength rather than performed strength. Many people perform not needing the avoidant. Play games of distance to trigger the avoidance pursuit. Create strategic unavailability to maintain power. But the person with this rare quality is not performing. They genuinely valued the relationship, and they genuinely chose themselves more than they valued keeping the avoidant. This authenticity is what makes the departure devastating and memorable, rather than just another manipulation to navigate. The person who can leave while still caring also demonstrates the very quality the avoidant wishes they could access in themselves: the ability to care deeply while maintaining boundaries, to be emotionally invested while prioritizing their own well-being, to love without losing themselves. The avoidant sees in this person's departure the integrated adult they wish they could be, someone who can handle difficult emotions, make hard choices, care about others while caring about themselves more. This modeling of healthy emotional functioning is a valuable teaching moment, even though it comes through the pain of loss. Why these three qualities together create permanent impact. When all three of these rare qualities exist in one person, genuine security in face of the avoidance insecurity, capacity to see them clearly without trying to fix them, and willingness to walk away while still caring, the avoidant encounters someone who becomes permanently lodged in their psyche. This person represents everything the avoidant needs to heal, while simultaneously demonstrating everything the avoidant fears about intimacy. The security makes them feel safe. The clear seeing makes them feel known. The willingness to leave makes them feel the consequences of their patterns. Most people the avoidant encounters have one, or maybe two, of these qualities, but rarely all three. Someone might be secure, but blind to the avoidance patterns. Someone might see clearly, but lack the security to not become anxious. Someone might be willing to leave, but do so in ways that communicate they no longer care. But the person who embodies all three qualities is offering the complete package the avoidant needs: safety to be vulnerable, understanding to be seen, and accountability through boundaries that include willingness to leave if growth does not occur. The avoidant's typical patterns do not work with this person. They cannot trigger anxious pursuit through distance because the person is secure. They cannot hide behind their defenses because the person sees through them. They cannot take the person for granted because the person will leave before accepting mistreatment. This combination forces the avoidant into position where growth becomes necessary if they want to keep this person, where their usual defensive strategies are ineffective, where they must actually show up or lose something genuinely valuable. Many avoidants, when encountering this combination of qualities, still choose their patterns over the person. The discomfort of growth feels worse than the pain of loss in the moment. The vulnerability required feels more terrifying than the loneliness of being alone. But even when the avoidant chooses their patterns, they never forget the person who embodied these three qualities. This person becomes the standard against which everyone else is measured. This person becomes the one who got away. This person becomes the permanent evidence that the avoidance patterns cost them something irreplaceable. How these qualities contrast with what people think avoidants want. The common understanding of what avoidants want in relationships is fundamentally flawed. People think avoidants want space, independence, partners who do not need them, casual connections without depth, and surface level. The avoidance behavior seems to confirm this understanding. They push away closeness, value independence, seem to prefer surface connections. But these are what avoidants do when afraid, not what they actually want at deeper level. What the avoidant actually values: security, clear-seeing, boundaried caring are qualities that would allow them to have intimacy safely rather than qualities that allow them to avoid intimacy comfortably. The avoidant does not want more space. They want to feel safe enough that closeness does not trigger their wounds. They do not want someone who needs them less. They want someone secure enough that the avoidance patterns do not create anxiety that makes closeness feel dangerous. They do not want casual connections. They want someone who sees them deeply, but does not use that seeing to pressure them into vulnerability before they are ready. The misconception that avoidants want distance and independence leads people to give the avoidant exactly what reinforces their patterns rather than what would actually help them heal. Giving extreme space confirms the avoidant's belief that they are better off alone. Being strategically unavailable confirms the avoidant's expectation that people will leave. Keeping things casual confirms the avoidant's fear that deep connection is not safe, but providing security, offering clear seeing, and maintaining boundaries teaches the avoidant different lessons. Closeness can be safe. Being seen does not mean being controlled. Caring about someone does not mean accepting their dysfunction. The person who understands what the avoidant actually values, rather than what they seem to want, positions themselves as someone who could genuinely matter to the avoidant long term. They do not play the avoidance game, but instead offer something entirely different: genuine partnership with someone secure, aware, and boundaried enough to handle the avoidance complexity without being destroyed by it. This is what the avoidant needs, even though they often do not recognize it until after they have lost it. Why so few people possess these qualities? These three qualities are rare because each one requires significant personal development that most people have not achieved. Genuine security requires having done extensive work on your own attachment wounds, having processed your own fears of abandonment or engulfment, having developed sense of self that does not depend on external validation. Most people are still carrying unhealed wounds that get triggered by avoidant behavior, making genuine security in face of the avoidance insecurity nearly impossible. The capacity to see clearly without trying to fix requires combination of perceptiveness, emotional intelligence, and radical acceptance that is uncommon. Most people either do not see beneath surface behaviors or, once they see, cannot resist the urge to help, change, or heal the person they are with. The impulse to fix is deeply ingrained in most caring people. Seeing someone struggle and choosing not to rescue them, not to push them toward growth, requires both wisdom and restraint that few possess. The willingness to walk away while still caring requires integration of care and self-protection that most people cannot achieve. Most people can only leave when they have stopped caring, or leave with so much residual anger that caring is hidden beneath resentment. The ability to love someone and leave them, to want good things for them while refusing to sacrifice yourself to them, requires emotional sophistication and self-worth. That is the result of significant personal work. Additionally, possessing all three qualities simultaneously is even rarer because each requires different kind of strength. Security requires internal stability. Clear seeing requires external awareness. Willingness to leave while caring requires integration of both. The person who has done enough work to be genuinely secure, perceptive enough to see clearly, mature enough to leave with care, is operating at level of emotional development that represents top small percentage of population. This is why, When the avoidant encounters this person, they are encountering something extraordinarily rare, even if they cannot fully appreciate that rarity until after the person is gone. What happens when the avoidant loses someone with all three qualities? When the avoidant loses someone who embodied all three of these rare qualities, the loss creates specific kind of regret that differs from ordinary relationship regret. This is not regret about losing someone attractive or fun or compatible. This is regret about losing someone who represented the avoidant's best chance at transformation, someone who could have walked with them through healing if they had been willing to do the work, someone whose specific combination of qualities the avoidant will likely never encounter again in one person. The avoidant often does not recognize the significance of what they are losing until after it is gone. While this person is present, the avoidant may focus on the discomfort of being seen so clearly, the pressure they feel from boundaries being maintained, the fear that comes from being with someone secure enough not to need them desperately. But once the person leaves, once the avoidant encounters others who lack these qualities, the comparison becomes devastating. New people either trigger the avoidant more through their anxiety or cannot provide the depth of seeing this person offered or accept the avoidance patterns in ways that feel empty rather than understanding. The regret is compounded by the recognition that this was person who cared enough to see them clearly, but not enough to stay while being diminished. This person valued the avoidant, but valued themselves more. This person offered everything the avoidant needed, but withdrew that offer when the avoidant could not receive it. The finality of that withdrawal, the clarity that this person will not return, forces the avoidant to confront that some losses are permanent, that some people only offer themselves once, that the window for having access to this rare combination of qualities has closed. Many avoidants spend years, even decades, trying to find someone else with these same qualities. They may find people who are secure, but cannot see them. They may find people who see them, but are not secure. They may find people who leave, but do so with anger rather than care. But they rarely, if ever, find someone who has all three qualities again, certainly not in someone who is compatible with them in other ways. This person becomes permanent reference point, permanent reminder of what patterns cost them, permanent evidence that they are capable of fumbling something genuinely valuable through their own fear. The specific ways these qualities challenge the avoidance defense system. Each of these three rare qualities challenges a specific aspect of the avoidance defense system. The avoidant has spent their life building psychological fortress designed to protect them from vulnerability, and these three qualities represent forces that could potentially breach those defenses if the avoidant allowed it. Genuine security challenges the avoidance defense that relationships are dangerous because people become needy and demanding. The avoidant has organized their entire relational strategy around the belief that closeness leads to pressure, but the genuinely secure person demonstrates that these beliefs are trauma responses, not universal truths. They offer closeness without pressure, care without neediness, presence without demands. This challenges the avoidant's entire worldview and forces them to confront that their defenses may be protecting them from danger that no longer exists. The capacity to see clearly without fixing challenges the avoidance defense that being known means being controlled. The avoidant learned early that allowing people to see their vulnerability resulted in manipulation or shame. But the person who sees clearly without trying to fix demonstrates that being known does not automatically mean being controlled. They see the avoidance fear, understand the patterns, recognize the wounds, and simply hold that knowledge with compassion. This challenges the avoidance belief that they must hide to be safe. The willingness to walk away while caring challenges the avoidance defense that leaving proves people never really cared. The avoidant often sabotages relationships to confirm their belief that people will leave when things get difficult. But the person who leaves while still caring, who walks away with explicit statement that they care about the avoidant's well-being, but cannot stay in relationship that is harming them, disrupts this narrative entirely. They prove that leaving can be act of self-respect rather than evidence of insufficient care. How recognizing these qualities helps you understand your own value. If you recognize yourself as someone who possesses these 3 rare qualities, understanding their rarity helps you understand why the avoidant responded to you the way they did, and why losing you will likely haunt them. It also helps you recognize that you do not need to change yourself or become more like what you think the avoidant wants. The qualities you possess are exactly what the avoidant actually needs, even if they cannot receive them. Your genuine security is profound strength that comes from having done your own work, from knowing your worth independent of anyone else's behavior. This security is attractive to healthy people and terrifying to people not ready for healthy relationship. The avoidance fear of your security is evidence they are not ready for what you offer, not evidence you should be less secure. Your capacity to see them clearly without trying to fix them is wise compassion that understands the difference between accepting a person and accepting unacceptable behavior. Your ability to hold this distinction is sophisticated emotional intelligence that most people never develop. The avoidance discomfort with being seen so clearly is evidence that your perceptiveness threatens their defenses, not that you should pretend not to see. Your willingness to walk away while still caring is self-respect, combined with emotional maturity. The ability to recognize when continuing would harm you more than help them. Your capacity to love someone and leave them is evidence of integration that represents highly developed emotional functioning. The avoidance loss of you is evidence that you valued yourself appropriately, not that you should have stayed longer. Understanding the rarity and value of these qualities helps you resist the temptation to blame yourself for the relationship not working or to believe you should have been different. You were exactly what the avoidant needed. They simply were not ready to receive it. That is their loss and their work to do, not evidence of your inadequacy. Why these qualities cannot be performed or faked. These 3 rare qualities cannot be successfully performed or faked for extended periods. People can perform security by acting unbothered while anxious underneath. They can perform seeing by parroting therapy language without genuine understanding. They can perform walking away strategically to trigger pursuit. But these performances are unstable and reveal themselves over time. Genuine security reveals itself through consistency. The secure person remains grounded, not just when calm, but when the avoidance patterns are most triggering. The avoidance nervous system can sense the difference between performed calm and genuine security. The capacity to see clearly reveals itself through restraint. The person who genuinely possesses this quality does not constantly push the avoidant toward therapy or improvement. They simply see, understand, and hold space. The willingness to walk away while caring reveals itself through the manner of leaving, with clarity and calm rather than chaos, maintaining boundaries while expressing care for the avoidant's well-being. The paradox of what avoidants value versus what they can accept. The painful paradox at the heart of the avoidance relationship to these three rare qualities is that what they value most is often what they are least able to accept. The avoidant recognizes on some level that these qualities represent what they need to heal. What would make relationships safe? What could allow them to lower their defenses? But recognizing value and being able to receive it are entirely different things. Security feels threatening because it challenges the avoidant's core identity as someone who must protect themselves through independence. Being seen clearly feels unbearable because it strips away the performance the avoidant has maintained their entire life. Being with someone willing to walk away while caring feels like losing control over the relationship's trajectory. The avoidant is accustomed to being the one who leaves, the one who controls distance, but someone who will leave if their needs are not met shifts power away from the avoidant. The paradox creates tragic pattern, where the avoidant often destroys relationships with the very people who could help them heal, because those people's qualities are too threatening to accept. The avoidant values security, clear seeing, and boundaried care. But these qualities require the avoidant to surrender defenses they are not ready to release, so they push away the person who offers what they most need, often destroying their best chance at transformation in service of maintaining protection they no longer actually require.